Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This is an old story, but it's something I have pretty much forgotten about until I saw the hotel scammer story on the front page. This was in Christmas 2001, back when we still trusted the internet, and eBay was a sure bet for getting a deal. We were looking for a nice gift for our 6-year-old, and having limited funds. Thought that maybe a slightly used PS2 console would be awesome. We found a seller with a long history and a good rating that had a console and a dozen games with it for like $300. Especially considering the games, this was a fantastic deal. Maybe half off of retail. The seller was mostly into selling sports cards, but he had a variety of other auctions, including lots of video games. It would be our whole Christmas budget for him, but was too good to pass up. So we won the auction, and we sent the payment. The seller replied with a variety of emails saying congrats, and he will send it at the end of the week as he was out of town. A week goes by and we hear nothing. We emailed and he gave some excuse and asked for another day. We emailed again and he said he mailed it but didn't have the tracking number, yada yada yada. As it became clear that we had been scammed, we were pretty distraught as that was our Christmas savings for our boy. My wife wouldn't let it go and has always been quite good at internet sleuthing. So she started looking through his eBay history and noted that while he had been a solid A+ seller for years, many poor reviews started flooding in. Many people eventually got the product or a refund, but it was taking longer and longer to resolve. She also looked through Yahoo auctions. That was a thing then, and found a seller with a different name with the same items up for sale. Using that username, she was able to find an online dating profile that used the exact same username, had his picture, email address, and actual address. This had gone on for a few weeks and the emails continued back and forth with promises of eventual refunds and lies about lost shipments and all. So she looked up the local police department in the city and they actually had an online fraud department. She told him the story and he had said that they had received numerous complaints about a scammer that others had tracked items to the city, but we was the first with an address. He drove to his house and he was there with a garage full of sports cards and stuff. He basically got behind and started kind of an eBay Ponzi scheme where he would get money from new auctions to pay back old auctions while taking cash out and getting further and further behind. It was crazy stupid. I think he owed about 10k to dozens of people. He ended up getting arrested and was forced to have wages garnished to pay back people and got community service. And after a few months, we finally got our money back. So this has been going on for years and now it has reached a conclusion, so I thought I could finally post it. By the way, this happened before lockdown. This started 4 years ago when my aunt and uncle adopted 2 cats. One is very quiet and sleeps a lot, he doesn't really go too far from the house, and the other cat is the exact opposite. He goes out loads, he only stays in for food and sleep and has an appetite all the time. One day the cat didn't come home for a week. Okay, suspicious but definitely not strange for a cat. Then it happens again and again. And by now my aunt is getting worried and buys a cat tracker. It turns out that the cat was spending his time in a nearby house. At this point my uncle went round to talk with them about it. Instantly they denied everything. They didn't encourage the cat or feed it or anything. Suspicious. It becomes more apparent over the next couple of months they were talking nonsense. The cat is getting fatter and fatter until one day, on a visit to the vets, he is placed on a list for at-risk animals. By now my aunt is angry, and to be fair I can see why. These people were denying that they had ever fed the cat at all, while it causing it health problems that could cost thousands in vet bills. This all boiled down to what can only be described as one of the most entitled acts I have ever heard. At a family gathering, the entitled couple's daughter is just leaving when she spots the cat and decides that it's now hers. She just picked it up and drove it back home. 50 miles back home. Fortunately for us, there were some plumbers doing work in the street who watched her take the cat. At first, they had no idea whose cat it was, but when my uncle started asking around to see if anyone had seen it, they told him. We were astonished that they had the audacity to do that. What's more, they claimed it was their cat they had lost. My uncle was friends with someone who knew the entitled couple's daughter quite well and confirmed that they had lost a ginger cat who was quite old. The cat they had taken was black. They lost their cat over a year before. How can people be so stupid? And this is where my aunt calls in backup. Legal backup. In court, the entitled couple are given a cease and desist as well as bills for healthcare issues the cat had during his time at their house. The entitled couple's daughter is told to give back the cat and is also given a community service project to complete on animal welfare. Oh, the irony. And all went well. But wait, the entitlement continues. When the entitled couple's daughter brought the cat back to my aunt, she was mad. She virtually threw the cat to my aunt and started a screaming rant with the whole street watching. Me and my cat deserve this cat more. What a classic. My aunt tells her, why don't you just buy one? My kids are so sad. You should at least pay for a new cat for us. Sorry? Are you off your head? Then the daughter starts screaming. Please leave. But she still screams. Then as the daughter drives away, she flicks off my aunt as she gives her a friendly wave. Edit. It has been pointed out that I didn't explain well on two parts. The bills that the entitled couple had to pay were for treatment for weight loss and diabetes. 2. Yes, the cat is allowed outside. It was a rescue and got violent when not allowed out. The other one is a permanent cat, so stays in. This all began literally on my birthday and carried on for about 2 months after. At this time, the order of protection had long ran out and had not been renewed, as we had gone total no contact with my entitled aunt and had been so since she had tried to submit forged documents to the courts, trying to get her hands on my inheritance. It still puzzles me how she did not wind up in prison over that, but I digress. It was my 18th birthday, and the party was in full swing with everyone having a great time. Kids having fun in the backyard, adults relaxing with their favorite drinks, and everyone enjoying themselves. I had just gone into the backyard to see how the kids were getting on, and was having fun playing chase and you can't catch me with the kids, when there was sudden loud commotion from inside the house. I rushed into the house to see what was going on. There stood my aunt with some guy, sleazy lawyer in a cheap suit, demanding to see me and shouting I was going to sign her papers and no one was going to stop her this time. My mother, now in declining health, was up in my aunt's face yelling at her to get out and never come back, and that she was not and never would be welcome here. My aunt just stood there looking smug, her entitlement on full display for everyone to see. She shouted at my mom to shut up and get out of her way. When my mom didn't, she had the gall to raise her hand and full-on slap my mom so hard she went down. I lost it. I went into full attack mode and punched her full in the face as hard as I could, breaking her nose for the second time in her life. And I screamed, "Get out before the cops get here!" My aunt got off the floor and seeing the murderous look on my face, decided to leave. She rushed out with the sleazy lawyer behind her so fast, I swear she left a vacuum in her wake. I wasn't done, however. I followed them outside and yelled that if she had ever had the courage to ever come back, I would kill her. She actually had the gall to call the cops and tried to have me arrested for defending my mother. So once again, we had to make a trip to the courthouse and apply for a new restraining order. The judge took one look at the form and signed it without question, having had to deal with her several times over the years in several other frivolous lawsuits. She lost every single one of them. We were later told when receiving the order My aunt went crazy amid several threats, which prompted another visit by the cops to her house. A few days later, we received a notice that she was filing suit for assault, theft of personal money, deception, and a whole host of other made-up and imagined crimes, and was demanding the inheritance in its entirety as compensation for her pain and suffering. The case went to court 2 months later. During the court proceedings, she told completely embellished tales of how we were stalking her and threatening her life, and in general, making her life a living hell. During the proceeding, she was asked by the judge if she had proof of said stalking. She didn't. The judge also asked us if we could provide proof of her having come to the house and attacking my mother. We did, and had several witnesses including a retired officer who's a longtime family friend, and we showed video proof of her driving up out of the driveway and getting out of the car and literally storming to the front door. Yes, my mother had long installed security cameras around the property because things were mysteriously disappearing when left outside. Not cheap at that time and considered a luxury item. Big bulky things that you could not miss if you saw them. She also pulled out the threaten to kill her card, pointing at me, trying to play the victim but failed miserably. The judge asked me if that was true. I told him yes, but that it was said in anger because she had hurt my mother and I was seeing red at the time. I wound up with a very small fine and 5 hours community service. No biggie. I knocked all that out in one afternoon and made a few new friends at the same time. The judge threw her case out and told her that if he ever saw her in his courtroom again with something so frivolous, he would see to it that she would be the next one fined and receive no less than 100 hours of community service to teach her a little humility. He also ruled that no matter what she thinks, the terms of inheritance were spelled out clearly and that she had lost all and any claim to it the first time she tried to sue a 9-year-old child over it, and that the court would show her no mercy whatsoever next time. A few minutes after court was adjourned, we were in the court foyer getting ready to leave when she and the sleazy lawyer approached, and they said this was far from over, that if they couldn't get the inheritance due my aunt, he would keep it tied up in procedures and legal matters until none of us was left to inherit. She was reminded of the new restraining order and my mother called over one of the police officers that was there with other clients, and my aunt and her sleazy lawyer left in a rush. True to his word, a few days later we got notice of a new lawsuit from them and that they had applied for a change of venue claiming they feared they would not get a fair hearing locally because of the good old boy attitude that permeated the local populace. The request for change of venue was denied on the basis of insufficient proof. So they started playing delay tactics, claiming they were still investigating certain matters, like they were not yet fully prepared and so on, thinking that would cost us money and force us to just sign the inheritance over to end the troubles. It didn't work because I had not yet received the inheritance. Our attorney waited until after everything was settled before he handed it over to me. Brilliant maneuver on his part. My mother unfortunately passed away during this time in her sleep. They tried one more time to get me to sign over the inheritance a few days after my mother's wake and funeral. All I did was walk over to the now my phone and start dialing and said hello. Police? I had 2 trespassers on my property that have a restraining order against them and they are refusing to leave. And they vanished faster than I thought possible. In the end, they were forced to drop the suit as it was obvious they were not going to win. And yes, I was stubborn enough to leave it where it was for as long as it took for them to stop. Since then, my aunt has been obsessed with getting her hands on the inheritance, even going so far as to claiming I was a pedophile and trying to get me kicked out of my own home by the town on that basis. No one ever believed her. The last time she wound up being ordered into court and threatened with serious consequences if she did not cease her harassment and threats. Since then, the rest of the family essentially cast her out, ostracizing her. Even those considered entitled will have nothing to do with her anymore. Still, she persists in trying to gossip and spread rumors about me and how I stole her inheritance to anyone that will listen. No one ever believes her. Yet she persists in trying. Her entitlement and obsession have grown so powerful to her, she still thinks she's going to get her money someday, and I will pay for making her suffer so much. She has become so obsessed she even managed to bully the one family member I did share my inheritance with into buying her a small house. And still even once more but got totally cut off by that family member after she got the house. To this day she still has not given up her attempts to get my inheritance. Even tried claiming a new house I have purchased with her money. But that's another story. She can try as much as she wants, but she will never succeed. In the end, she will eventually die bitter and lonely and wind up buried in a pauper's grave, only remembered for her unbound entitlement and obsession. This is a story my father told me many years ago. It occurred when he was a boy. My father struggled with his weight his entire life, and he was a very sad boy. When he was about 8 or 9, he was bullied by this other kid in his neighborhood, about 11 or 12 years old, whose dad had dreams of his kid becoming a prize fighter. It turns out the bully's dad had actually instructed the bully to pick fights with my father, as he was the largest kid in the neighborhood, and the bully's dad thought my father would be a good sparring partner for the bully. My father was extremely introverted and shied away from violence and conflict, but the bully kept pushing the matter, not taking no for an answer, and he kept picking fights with my father as instructed apparently by his father. It escalated to the point where the bully punched my father so hard in the face that my father went temporarily cross-eyed and had to wear special glasses to correct him. Police and other authorities were of no help, as this was in the 50s. The bully's dad denied everything and boys will be boys. My father finally had enough one day and acquiesced to the bully constantly trying to drag him into a fight. Despite being 2 to 3 years younger, my father was roughly the same height as the bully and had a definite weight advantage. The bully got his fight, he got his sparring partner for one day. By my father's recollection, it was a total curb stomp battle. My enraged father let loose and demolished the older bully. The bully lost many of his front permanent teeth that day and never bothered my father again. Thank you for watching and see you next time.